how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Truth Defender podcast. We are coming to you from the greatest country in the world, state of Texas, more specifically deep in the heart of the Lone Star State, Dallas, Texas. I'm Rod. We really appreciate you guys stopping in for another episode. If you guys are catching us on YouTube, be a subscriber, please consider hitting that subscribe button for us. That'll really help us out. You can also get and hit that bell icon so you guys don't miss an episode in the future. Also, if you guys are feeling generous and you're here, please consider sharing our show with a friend, family member. Just go ahead and simply take the link to this show down below, share it with them through email, whatever you got to do. Go ahead and do that for us, please. That'll help us out a lot. And you want to check us out, you can find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, radio, at Truth Defender Podcast. If you have any questions for myself or a guest or topic recommendations, as always, you can shoot us an email over at thetruthDefender1776.com. Our next guest is Mr. Lester Velez. Mr. Velez is a graduate of University of Vermont with a Bachelor of Business Administration. Beginning in September of 1970, he also served in the U.S. Army as a field artillery officer and was later vice president of Luscombe Engineering, which is a waste manufacturer's representative company. I joined MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, back in 1991. Held numerous positions such as field investigator, field investigators training coordinator, assistant state director of Northern California, chairman of A.E.R.C, which is the Experiencer Research Committee, and team leader of the A.R.T, Abduction Response Team, which sounds very interesting. Also, during that time, became a facilitator support group in San Jose, California. And in 1990, co-founded OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. Without further ado, Mr. Lester Velez, how you doing, sir?
Great, Paul. Thank you so much for having me on the show tonight. I look forward to our chat.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time, as I mentioned before. So we're both kind of in the same boat tonight. We're all sitting back waiting for this tornado watch to go by. We've also got the rain coming in hard. I'm out here kind of in between. It's hitting pretty rough, but we'll try to get through as much as we can before it.
Until we lose power.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I actually used to live in Velez previously, and for some reason, no matter where we ended up, we always had issues with the electricity. Whenever it rained or there was any kind of storm, it seemed like it just, and we always lost power. Out here, and it's the same thing. Like it just hits our block only for some reason, but everybody else.
Lucky you.
Exactly. I don't know what it is, but we've had an issue with that for at least about 5-6 years. So we'll get through it. Hopefully, much of the looks like it passed already. It's just a little dark and windy outside. So
that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Good news.
Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead and kind of jump in here. So first off, thank you for your service. Obviously you served as well. I really appreciate that. But
thank you.
I kind of want to get into how you made the leap from being an artillery officer to getting into, obviously like UFOs and such. How did that kind of leap go about?
It's always interesting how people get to where they are. And my journey actually started when I was 11 years old, and I was living in Connecticut at the time. And it was late October evening, and I was coming back in the house, and I noticed this object, this whitish oval object hovering over a tree line. And it was slowly moving, and it scared the hell out of me. And I ran in the house and told my dad, and I tried to get him to come out. And by the time I convinced him to come on out, the thing was gone. And he said, well, it's probably just a beacon of light reflecting off a cloud. And well, needless to say, I didn't believe that. And shortly thereafter, I went to the library and I picked up some books on UFOs. And back in those days, this is the late 50s, George Adamski was the guy that was really the main speaker with regard to the UFO phenomena. He wrote a couple of books about his experiences with the Venusians, and I mean, it was something that a young boy would just totally get into. And so I was into it for a while, but then it kind of faded, and other things became more important in my life, and I kind of forgot about it and went off to college, to the University of Vermont, and I was in the ROTC program, and that's how I got hooked up with the Army and the artillery. And shortly thereafter, I got married and spent 2 years active and 4 years reserve with the Army. And in 1985, I moved out to California, and I picked up the newspaper one day, and Stanton Freeman, who a nuclear physicist, was going to talk at San Jose City College about UFOs and a government cover-up. Well, I tell you, it was like somebody threw a switch. I said, "Oh man, I gotta go see this guy," and so I went there expecting to see a handful of people, but in fact the place was packed. There was about 300 people there, and filled up the auditorium. And on my way out, MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, which was founded actually here in Texas, in Seguin, Texas, by a couple of engineers, had a table there. And they talked about the fact that they had a monthly journal. And so I started to get the journal and reading about all these cases that people were talking about. And these were all sighting type cases.
Sure.
And so after a while, though, it wasn't enough for me. I said, well, okay, I got to do something more. So I found out that they had a training course for field investigators. So I took that and I passed that and started to go out in the field with a more seasoned investigator. But most of the cases, almost without exception, were not only sightings, but people talked about the fact that they had contact with non-human intelligences. So that really started to get my interest. And one of the things that came out of that was that these people would ask me, did I know of other people having similar experiences? And I said, yes, I do. And so the next thing I know, I'm facilitating a support group in San Jose in my office at Luscombe Engineering. And it, it was remarkable because I learned so much about this phenomena. A lot of people talk about it as abductions. Other people talk about it as an experience. Other people talk about it as as contact. And so I generally use the term experiencer because it's kind of a neutral thing. Because some people have had very positive experiences, and other people have had very negative experiences with the phenomena.
Right.
So shortly after I started to do that, I got written up in the Monterey Coast Weekly paper about what I was doing with MUFON. And I got a call shortly after that came out from a woman in Carmel, California, that said, I would really like to understand what's going on with my brain when I'm in contact with these off-earthly entities. Well,
Right.
To myself, I was saying, how the hell can I possibly help a person like this? And so I kind of was, not too excited about it. But then she said she was working with an emergency room doctor in Carmel. And I had a friend at the time who was a doctor, and he was very interested in contacting other doctors that were familiar with the phenomena. So I called him up and I said, hey, why don't we go down and see this lady and see what we can do, if anything. And so one Saturday afternoon, we went down there. And so as we walked into the house, there was a picture on the wall. And in the picture, she was standing on the back of this vessel, if you will. It was a rather large boat. And I said, so what are you doing there? And she says, oh, I was helping these treasure hunters. I said, really? I said, how were you helping the treasure hunters? And she says, well, I was in contact with the captain of the galleon that had gone down. And so right away we said, holy smokes, what's going on, folks? Well, we come to find out that she had had a near-death experience. And afterwards, she became very psychic. And with that ability, she was able to contact not only living people, but understanding what was going on with them, but people like the captain of the galleon that had gone down. And so we came away that afternoon and said, well, how can we possibly help these people? And that was the afternoon that OPUS, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, was hatched. And subsequently in 1994, we became a 501c3 nonprofit organization recognized by the IRS, which always cracks me up. Paranormal and the IRS, that's always oxymoron in some way, shape, or form. But anyway, the consequences of all of this is really interesting, because from that, so many things have occurred. In 2007, I was a member. I'm still a member of MUFON, so I went to the international director, who at the time was James Carrion, and I said, you guys have always been a nuts and bolts type organization, and you've kind of neglected these people that claim that they've had experiences with non-human intelligences. And so I think we really need to understand that better and help these people. So what they did, which, to this day, I'm really thankful that they did this, that all the calls that were coming in to MUFON from people looking for help with regard to their experiences, I was getting the phone calls. They were forwarded to me, and I was doing triage on it and finding out what these people wanted. Then at the time, the only thing that I could do for them besides talk to them about their experiences was to refer them to a hypnotherapist, because a lot of these people, when they contacted us, were looking for the ability to understand what had happened during their experience, because a lot of the things they could not remember on a conscious level. And so they needed to have a professional take a look at that and see if they could bring up that memory in some way, shape, or form. So, and then during that period as well, they asked me to set up a group to analyze these people. And so we actually put a study together called the Omega-3 study, which you can find on the OPUS website, which is at opusnetwork.org, opusnetwork.org. And you look in the documents and articles section, and at the bottom you'll find the Omega-3 study, which took 71 people that claimed that they had experience with non-human intelligences and 51 people that were a control group. And we found out some very, very interesting things. And so I have that conclusions, which I can read to you, which I think you'll find quite interesting. In general, abductees, experiencers profile differently than do their comparison counterparts on a number of general psychological and specific neurological variables. Yet there are remarkable similarities between the experiential group and the comparison group. It should be noted that in no case did experiencers or comparison group participants show any signs of mental illness or personality disorder. So they had no psychopathology. I mean, these people were not crazy. All right.
Right.
And that's something that comes up all the time when talking to a lot of people, debunkers, if you will, that say, oh yeah, these people are, have issues in that regard. Well,
Right.
fantasy proneness is another one that, a lot of people have talked about that, oh, they're just fantasy prone. Well, it doesn't appear to play a differentiating role between the experiential and the control groups. However, sensitivity to alternative realities and early concurrent paranormal or psi experiences seem to play a role in the abduction experience. Childhood conflict, psychosocial tension, and abuse trauma more than likely facilitate a dissociative coping style in later life. Now, dissociation doesn't mean it's a psychopathology. It's just something that people have developed to deal with certain things. Uh, as I mentioned previously, how much a part dissociation plays in the abduction experience remains an open question. But abuse trauma dissociation pathway remains a viable descriptive, if not explanatory, principle. Both experience with and interest in the abduction phenomena have impact on how one's body is perceived and function, how one views the world, and one's purpose in it, and how one defines or redefines one's faith, tradition, and beliefs. In essence, both experience with and interest in contact seem to change one's sense of self and one's worldview. And people have come back after these experiences with really the same kind of thoughts that, hey, we need to be better stewards of the planet, take care not to pollute, be better to one another, love one another. I mean, these are all very positive things that people come back with. Abductees experience believe that there is a sentient, purposive alien intelligence at play in their lives and at work in the world. What the intelligence's goals are seen to be more beneficent than benevolent, more benign than malignant. This, though, remains an open question and a point of doubt in the minds and hearts of some abductee experiencers and some comparison control participants. And, you have a group of people like David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins that have always felt that these experiences are very negative. These are all bad guys. And then you have Stephen Greer, who's on the other side that says, oh, they're all good, no problem, don't worry about it. Well, I think we have good people and bad people here on Earth. And I think we have the same thing going on up there, wherever there is. There's good groups and there's bad groups, and then even within groups there's good ones and bad ones. So it's very difficult to, I think, to make a blanket statement that they're all bad or they're all good. And one of the things that we found recently in a study, which we just completed the first phase of, is the Omega-4 study, a follow-on to the Omega-3. How clever of us to name it the Omega-4. That these people, 80%, almost 80%, feel that they don't want the experience to stop. And so the remaining 25 to 20% who have had very negative experience certainly want them to stop. But the vast majority want them to continue. So it can't be all that bad. So this we found to be quite interesting. And one of the things in the Omega-3 study that came out of it was that the brain generally and the temporal lobes and the limbic system more particularly play a mediating role in anomalous experiences such as abduction. So this is things that really need to be looked at even more deeply, because people like Gary Nolan from Stanford University and Kate Green have worked with experiencers and found that in their brain, in the connections between the roof of the caudate and the top of the putamen area, there's a lot more connections in people that have psychic abilities, being able to have telepathic communications, transmit certain things telepathically. And then we found out that, generational, that the parents and grandparents would have the same things going on. And
Right.
and people have asked that, why me? Why is this happening to me? Well, I think it's being followed. These aliens, if you will, we use that terminology, have are following generations to see how this is all playing out. Have they created this, or is there something that they're tuned into because people have that ability? Well, that's the $64,000 question, as they say. If you're probably too young to remember that game show, but
Yeah.
anyway,
It's odd. I mean, so I guess one of the things I'm interested in that I read here is that you guys have an abduction response team. Now, I guess when individuals have instances abducted or, whatever kind of experience they
mhm.
have, do they, I mean, is there like a hotline or is there just like emails? Does that whole
Yeah,
thing kind of play out
yeah.
with them?
Well, there's two parts to this. One is what we had started with MUFON,
Right.
and that thing that the Abduction Experiencer Resource Committee and the Abduction Response Team, that was all part of MUFON. That was around 2008, 2009 timeframe, and that has morphed now into the MUFON E.R.T, the Experiencer Resource Team, and their basic uh, thing that's going on with them is that if people hit the MUFON site and they have the ability to click on a tab that says, "Okay, I believe I've had an abduction and I want to tell my story," and it goes to this E.R.T group, and then someone within the E.R.T would contact that person and talk to them and find out what's going on.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the same thing now is happening with OPUS, and we have our website, and there's a tab on our site that says support, and when
Right.
you click the support button, it takes you to an area where you can fill out, a brief description of what you want, and there's a few tabs. Oh yeah, okay, great.
We'll look at it right here.
And you can, yeah, let's see, yeah,
Yeah, it's still kind of loading in, but it'll get there. It's
yeah,
just on my end.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole on the right side here. There's uh, uh, basically a chart that it
Right.
gives you what it is that you want. Like, do you want a hypnotherapist? Do you want to join the support group, the online support group? So you fill out that section, give us a little background on your experience and contact information.
Okay.
And so that way, as soon as we get one of those, uh, generally either myself or another person in our group will take a look at that. Depending upon what they're looking for, we will respond to them, usually within 24 hours, and send them information on a referral to a hypnotherapist. Or if they want to join the support group, we'll put them into the support group. Uh, and there are cases where, depending upon what they write, there may be a phone call made because they're asked to give us their phone number. And of course, it's not necessary that you give us your phone number, but we ask for it, and that way we can talk to the person and find out, perhaps they might need something different than what we can offer, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist even. But a lot of people, having had these experiences, already have gone to a psychologist or psychiatrist and find out that they're not crazy. So then what? Where do they turn? Because they can't turn to their family a lot of times. They can't turn to their coworkers. They can't talk to their clergy. It puts them in a really awkward position, and so it's a very stressful type of a situation for them because they don't know where to turn. So that's what we've been doing now since 1994, with the idea of trying to give support to these people, and this is free. This is absolutely free, and we survive on donations. That's how we survive. Although recently I wrote a book called "The Unknown Other" and the existential proposition of alien contact, which all the proceeds from that book go directly to OPUS, and that's helped out quite a bit recently. Yeah, there it is.
Right.
And you can click on that, and it takes you to Amazon. And in the library section at the top of the page, we have books, a lot of different books that we recommend with regard to this phenomena. And we are an affiliate of Amazon. And so if you click on any of the pictures of the books, uh, you're having an issue with
Yeah,
the browser.
it's on my
Yeah.
end. Yeah, it's definitely not the
Yeah.
website for everybody.
Yeah, right. Anyway, and we get a commission for the sale, so that's helpful. So there's various ways that we're trying to um, come up with funding, because we do have expenses. I mean, when you run a
Sure.
website and you run various things, Zoom is not, you have to pay for Zoom. we
Yeah.
do monthly Zoom meetings for the experiencers as well. And we've had interviews that I've done with various people like Linda Howe and Melinda Leslie and Yvonne Smith and Terry Lovelace, all of which are advisory board members for OPUS. Yeah, it's interesting how this has all come down over the years, and how I got involved with it. How about yourself? Let me ask you a question. I mean,
Sure.
what made you get into this field?
Ooh. So I would say try not to nail ourselves down all too much, into one topic. For we're kind of all over the page when it comes to like all kinds of paranormal. So we come from like the alien side of it to like Sasquatch and Bigfoots, and then to other
Mhm.
kind of and demonic possessions and all kinds of crazy things. And it's just been, I guess, those kind of unknown topics that I've always had an interest in. Obviously, there's since forever, I guess, starting back with Art Bell,
Mhm.
covering these kinds of things. But I started this whole show kind of back in 2020, and it's just because I wanted to find things about topics that I just hadn't heard of yet
Uh-huh.
on other shows, very specific things that I wanted to know about. And we've had a whole bunch of guests on
Have you had
wide
your own
ranges.
experience? Have you had your own experience?
I've had an experience not with UFOs that I would consider UFO, but very much so in the realm of like ghosts and things like
Uh-huh.
that.
Well,
So, hauntings.
that's something that you know Opus is not strictly involved with the abduction phenomena.
Right.
As our name says, Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support. And what does the word paranormal cover? Well, it covers a broad range of things, just like what you just talked about.
Right.
We have, spiritual awakening, a Kundalini awakening. We have poltergeist activity. We have angels and demons, orbs, you name it, ghosts.
Right.
It's all part of this. It's all part of the puzzle. It's all connected. And one of the things that the first phase of the Omega 4 study, what we did is we went out to therapists that are working with these experiencers. And here's what they came back with as far as the number one thing that these experiencers were talking about. Number one, it was the grays that they had contact with. The second thing is orbs. The third thing was interdimensional beings. And the fourth thing was ghosts. And there's a lot of connection. And then you talked about Sasquatch. Sasquatch and UFOs are connected in a big way. You have all kinds of sightings like that where someone sees a Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever, and there's a UFO sighted or a huge light in the forest, and then the entity Sasquatch disappears. Yeah, I mean it's like it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal, and we understand so little of all of this. And so the
Yeah.
only thing we can do now is to help and support people that are having these experiences and know that they're not crazy, and they're not alone, and there are people that can help them.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I think of like Sasquatch and such, and I've always of the mind that I, that they might be some kind of lost primitive species of some kind that's
Hmm.
been here on the everything that I've seen with regards to Sasquatch would kind of towards that they're like interdimensional beings of some kind.
Hmm.
Obviously that when people see them be some kind of UFO over the top, or maybe like a mile or two down the road or something. Uh, I've heard so many stories about that as well. And that kind of leads me more to believe that they're not, so to speak.
Hmm.
Obviously, because no one's ever found a body, and if there
Yeah.
was, I mean, these things have to die at some point. So, I mean, if there's really out there, somebody would stumble upon one, you know, maybe by chance, but nobody ever
Yeah.
does.
I mean, you hear stories about people shooting them, you know,
Yeah,
and and they never find a body. They just never
no,
find a body. And you mentioned, the fact that interdimensionality of this phenomena. Well, you know, people talk about, well, is it extraterrestrial in nature? Is it interdimensional? Is it time travelers? Is it our military involved in being involved? Or is it all the above, which I kind of think it is? I think it's all
right,
the above. I mean, you have cases of time travelers, you have cases of interdimensionality, you've got cases certainly of extraterrestrials, you know, being involved. It's very very broad with regard to the phenomena. It's not just one thing.
right. No, I definitely it's the military side of things, especially when it comes to dogman and those kinds of things.
Hmm.
Uh, Only because I was stationed overseas and I was actually in the Middle East for a while, and you would hear service members like seeing these things like being not unleashed, but seeing them like roaming the mountains, of Afghanistan and things like that,
Hmm.
and I always heard stories that until we later later on, like along the line of our time in it, maybe kind of towards the end, that these things are going to be seen more often. Like all of a sudden, they just showed up. And I had spoken to some bit boys that I know that were out there, and I had one of them confirm in a roundabout way that they were used as weapons out there, that they like naturally in the wild, that they were actually made and released whatever purpose.
Hmm.
Never really kind of got to it, and that was just kind of all he would ever tell me. So it's
Yeah.
like you hear stories from friends of friends of friends of friends, and they say things, and it's
Yeah.
that was one of the more consistent stories that I had heard, that they and unleashed as weapons in the Middle East. How they ended up here, I don't know, but it's kind of a weird
Well, we need to
phenomenon.
release a whole bunch of those against the Russians in Ukraine right now.
Yeah, it's I mean, there would be kind of more of the is that you would see them out there, especially like in Eastern Europe, and that's kind of where like the whole werewolf thing started. So
Yeah, it's true.
yeah, so it's
Romania
always
and
interesting.
Hungary and places like that.
Yeah,
Transylvania.
and it's that kind of leads. bit of a conflict because you would always hear stories of werewolves and things like that in those parts of the world, but then about the U.S. government possibly being involved with creating and unleashing them as weapons and that. So
Mm,
you hear a lot of weird things. At least, I would say 5 to 6, just
yeah.
kind of been putting stories together and stuff. So um, it's a lot. It's extremely. It's.
Oh, it is. It is.
I'm
It's
always
very the cryptid aspects of all of this is very interesting. You know, all the shows that are on television about those kind of things.
right.
Very popular on the Science Channel and Travel Channel and History Channel. Covering a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I like
Yeah.
watching it all.
No, sure. Yeah, it's always fun to watch, but it's kind of not with a healthy bit of skepticism as well. That whenever I see those kind of when it comes to like ghost shows and such and how they've exploded over the past year, it kind of makes me think that maybe some of those shows kind of drive people's imaginations as well.
Oh,
It's
certainly.
always a
Oh,
possibility.
certainly.
So it's kind of a weird thing.
Yeah, well, that goes back to when people contact us too.
Right.
How legitimate is the situation that they're telling us, and it becomes very evident very quickly once they get into the support group. Uh, the support group is very savvy, and they'll pick out somebody pretty quickly that's probably blowing smoke up people's tailpipes, so
Right.
to speak. And the next thing they know, because not, people stop responding to them, that they disappear fairly quickly. But we try to do a triage ahead of time with these people to make sure that's not the case. But you get them every once in a while that slip through, and so you have to deal with it in various ways. Um, the book that I put out there, The Unknown Other, basically, begins with a story about me and Opus and how it got created, but then it goes into the nitty gritty of the physical aspects of the phenomena, the psychological aspects, uh, talk about the implants, the hybrids, the UAP report that came out by the government last June. So it goes into really detail. Uh, the thing that impressed me the most, I guess, was the things that Dr. Roger Lear, who's since passed away, did with implants. He had 17 patients that he removed these implants. And you talk about evidence. It's remarkable. I mean, these things have no inflammatory or rejection reaction by the body,
Right.
first of all, which is highly unusual. The body doesn't like anything in there, other than what's supposed to be there. There's no visible portal of entry. Um, there's a whole bunch of specialized nerve endings around these things. There's an outer coating of a ceramic biological material. There's a metallic phase where inorganic metal becomes biological tissue. Uh, One of the things that he found was that there is emission of radio waves, which are deep space frequencies in the FM band, electromagnetic fields in excess of 10 milligauss, the composition of meteoric iron 66, rare earth elements such as U-236, non-terrestrial isotopic ratios indicating the involved elements do not come from Earth. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and I go into more detail in the book about all these things, and the fact that, folks, we don't know what it is. They tried to cut these things, and they even with a laser, and they couldn't cut them.
Right.
So it's like, what in the hell is this thing doing in a person's body? Is it transmitting, which obviously they did find that it was transmitting, but also is it a tracking device or is it a monitoring device of some sort? I've heard somebody talk about the fact that, well, they're monitoring the pollution levels in the body. Now, isn't that a nice thing for the aliens to do? They're concerned about our pollution in our bodies. I don't know about that one, but that's certainly something I've heard of late. Um, but yeah, so there's I go into, like I say, the psychological aspects. A lot of these debunkers say, well, it's sleep paralysis. That's all it is. These people are just imagining things. Well, 2/3 of all the cases, whether in the bedroom or not, do not involve sleep paralysis. False memory syndrome is another one. Well, the American Psychological Association or any other mainstream psychological diagnostic system has either ratified or proven such a diagnosis. And then, as I mentioned earlier, fantasy proneness, such as the omega-3 study, which I talked about, do not play, or other studies indicate that this is a factor. So, you people are not crazy. Something is going on. But what is it? Is it, as I said, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, time travelers, military, or all the above? Which I kind of think it's phenomenal phenomena.
Right. I'm sure it's very eloquently. Can have one without the probably, unfortunately. But I mean, I guess so. Rick, do you kind of see that like these maybe kind of intensify, like more sightings? Like say, like did you guys see any kind of spikes happening when there was any kind of like maybe something kind of not correlating, but whenever the necessary, maybe you guys had more. Well, I'm sure you might have had more case during the lockdown, but does that kind of correlate?
You get a number of people in the support group have already indicated that they had premonitions about the 9/11 situation. Now, whether that actually drove them to our site that's another question that I'm not sure about. However, there's been numerous cases where people have these premonitions, which have turned out to be true. Um, there's a woman that was a Bulgarian clairvoyant who died in 1996, but she had documented the 9/11 situation, and which obviously came true. But she also had another premonition, which I hope the hell does not come true, which she claimed that in 2027, a large asteroid would hit the Earth, guided here by the aliens. And now this gets even more crazy because I sent this story to Linda Moulton Howe, who does Earth Files,
Right.
who I've known for years and years. Matter of fact, she wrote the foreword to my book. And I said, this is wild. And so she sends me back an article from NASA. Okay. And this was NASA was at a conference in Japan. And this was in, let's see, there's a date here somewhere. 2017 that this conference took place in Japan. And the title of the presentation was Asteroids Chance of Earth Impact in 2027, now 96%.
Wow.
And it said on this presentation, on the PowerPoint, exercise only. Exercise only. What a freaking coincidence that is. So, and supposedly they had a graph of where this asteroid's going to come in over China, over Japan, and hit in the Pacific Ocean. So it's a good thing we're in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
I moved from California. I think I'm glad I moved from California. Um, but I mean, what a synchronistic type of a situation where I see this article one morning, I send it off to her, and she sends me back this thing that NASA did this presentation in Japan in 2017. And
Right.
this just happened, a couple of months ago. So, um, and people with psychic abilities are phenomenal. I've worked with a psychic up in Canada who's worked with the police up there finding bodies and missing people and things of that nature, and to be able to uh, tell a person about their past or their future uh, is unbelievable. One of the cases she worked on was a woman had come to her and she wanted to find out some things, and so she was telling her, and then all of a sudden, without this woman prompting her, she said, "I got to tell you something." It says your son is in trouble, and you need to really pay attention to him because he might commit suicide. And she says, "Well, we know he's got issues, but I don't think he's that far gone, so to speak." And she comes back like a month later or something, and her son did commit suicide. Uh, and so, how the hell does that happen?
Yeah.
Another case, a doctor, a woman doctor. You might have heard about this woman. She's pretty well known, but I can't think of her name off the top of my head. Um, had been on a kayaking trip down in South America and went over a falls in this kayak and got trapped underneath the falls for over 30 minutes. And during that time, she sees these loving entities and just this tremendous amount of warmth coming out of these entities and love. And she basically didn't want to, go back.
Come back.
She wanted to be with them. And they said, no, you have to go back, and you have things that you need to do. And then they told her that her son, who was a little boy at the time, when he turned 18, would die. Well, needless to say, she went back. She never said anything to her son. And shortly after he turned 18, he was in a car accident and died. How the hell does that work?
Yes.
Time and space. You can manipulate time and space, and that happens a lot with abductions. People have missing time, or they're taken and they come back before they were taken.
Right.
I mean, it's all kinds of manipulation of time. I had a case. This couple was picnicking up at a state park north of Santa Cruz in Northern California, and they were coming out of the park, and they saw this light over the ocean, and they kept watching it because it kept getting bigger and bigger until it literally was over their head, and it was a triangular craft about the size of a small Learjet, and this craft went into a canyon behind them and sat there. They saw another light over the ocean. This thing came in again, another triangular craft. First one, they felt they were looking at it. The second one, they felt it was looking at them. They became frightened.
Right.
And this craft went into the canyon behind them, sat next to this other craft. This happened 5 more times. There were 7 of these craft.
Man.
Anyway, at that point, they felt like they were on cruise control, and they started to drift. They felt like they were drifting out of the park. And this area, which I went up there with them to see this area, even during the day because it's heavily wooded, it's kind of dark and rocky. You would have a hard time getting out of there during the day, let alone at night. And so they got down to the bottom, and that's the last thing they remember until 3 hours later, they find themselves in a restaurant, which is only 5 to 10 minutes away, and they have no idea
Yeah.
how it happened.
I've had so many instances of that exact same thing where I kind of remember getting into the, and then all of a sudden I'm like an hour, all of a sudden I snap to, and I'm just like I'm just driving. I don't remember how I got there. I've had
Yeah,
a lot of different instances, and where you just like kind of snap to, and all of a sudden you're just there. Like
yeah.
it's just like where was
Isn't that
I? Like
something?
it's like the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my life, and it tends to happen, which is scary
Yeah.
for
Well,
one
they say
thing.
that it can be very hypnotic. Uh, especially if you're driving a longer distance. Uh,
Right.
you can almost become hypnotized by. In fact, I get in the car, I get very comfortable, very relaxed.
Mm. So do
Although
I.
driving in Texas on the
Yeah.
road, you shouldn't
Yeah.
be too relaxed. But anyway, uh, yeah, it's a phenomena that's not unusual where people talk about that. Where they all of a sudden, they get in their car and they're 40 miles from where they were and they don't remember how the hell they got there.
It's
One of the
it's
things
definitely
back in 1992, the Roper organization did a survey here in the United States that was commissioned by um, David Jacobs and Bud Hopkins and financed by Robert Bigelow. And they found that at that time there was like 6 million people in the United States alone that had had an experience like that, this phenomena. Well, move forward in time. How many more people do you think is happened to? But it's a worldwide event.
right.
We have people in the support group all over the world, from New Zealand, Australia, South America, Africa, all of Europe, Asia. I mean, it's happening all over. Matter of fact, somebody said the other day, which I'm getting to kind of believe, that we've all had an experience. We've all had an experience. We just don't remember it. We don't remember it, you know? And I'm kind of starting to lean in that direction, that no matter, you know, if you remember or you don't remember, it's probably happened. I mean, I had a case, okay, this is interesting. In one of the support groups, a person said to me, I've seen you before. Oh, really? A UFO conference at grocery store? What? Oh no, I've seen you on board the craft. Oh,
Hmm.
really? Well, I didn't believe it at the time. I kind of blew it off. And it was like a year and a half, 2 years later, another totally different person says to me in the group, I've seen you before. I said, really? A UFO conference? Grocery stores? No, no. I saw you on board the craft. You were sitting on this bench naked and you were freaking out. And they told me to go over to you to calm you down. Well, needless to say, I decided then to get some regression done. I went to three different people and I found out nothing in that regard. However, I had multiple past lives.
Right.
And I talked about this to another person that I know, a friend of mine, and they said, you know what? Maybe, maybe you had an experience in a past life that you don't remember. That's why you don't remember it. And that's one of the, I have, by the way, in the book, I have like 25 stories from people that are in our support group that have related their stories. And one of the stories by a gentleman by the name of Adam talks about that the aliens were talking to him about reincarnation,
Hmm.
and that it is a fact, folks. It's a fact.
Right.
And so if that's the case, and, and you've heard stories, I'm sure, about people, young people talking about, uh, it's a pretty famous case right now where a young boy started talking about, well, this airplane that he was flying on the aircraft carrier and the name of the aircraft carrier. And I mean, it went through the whole thing, had all his remembrances. And, I mean, he's never picked up a book, never read about it or anything. And this goes on. time and time again, where people, this one story where a boy was born with three fingers missing. Well, it turned out that this reincarnation was of a person that had his three fingers chopped off. And so he was born with three fingers missing. And then another person had a mark on their chest where obviously a bullet had gone through, and he was reincarnated from a person that got shot. So
Yeah, they definitely do exist. We spoke with, our guests would remember, we spoke with Dave and Carla, who are actually Dr. David Bettenhausen and Carla Bonnykid. They had like 27 or 29 past life experiences with each other. Like they were with each other every single life. They were, either
yeah,
related to each other or something.
yeah,
And they would still come back around each other, and they would meet like over and over again. So, and it, as well, and how they reincarnated, and things like that. And we even spoke with Preston, a
yeah,
member of MUFON as well, and he speaks very much about how where choose, like where to come, like which family to be a part of, and which life to be in, and stuff like that. And we're only here for a certain amount of time, and here meant to experience certain things, want to experience and have to experience on Earth, and then after, we're gone. So I believe in a lot of reincarnation.
well, it's interesting how. By the way, I'm going to be interviewing Preston myself because one of the things that we do on the Opus website, we have an Opus interview series, and so we're interviewing people like that, and the reincarnation thing to me is very interesting, and I always think about the fact that how lucky I am that I'm living now here in the United States and not in some third world country where disease is prevalent, malnutrition is prevalent, all kinds, gangs running wild and all this kind of stuff. You fear for your life every day. How lucky you and I are that we live where we live, as opposed to someplace else. And so I'm glad I chose to come here.
Yeah, it was like a weird thing when it comes to reincarnation. I them as well, to Preston is Dave and Carla about this as well, and I think we've had Preston on about 3 or 4 times. He has some great stories as well, but
oh yeah,
we kind of spoke about, if we've all had instances of reincarnation, we're all aware of our lives right now. Why isn't, obviously when it comes to reincarnation, remember their past lives, or there was maybe some kind of a block put in place that you wouldn't remember. And I wonder if in those past lives as well, we were aware of the fact that there might be something like that exists. We're to sit down and look at ourselves and think, I'm aware in right now, and there might be other lives that I've lived in the past and other lives that I'll future. That kind of barrier always frustrates me, that I'm not able to remember like what happened at all. But
yeah,
it's always been one of those things that I just hate about it.
yeah. I mean, it is fascinating that we don't remember, although some people do, and they're able to. I mean, there was a very famous woman who basically solved a lot of the Egyptian hieroglyphics and things of that nature because she felt that she lived during that time period, and so she could read the hieroglyphics. She could even speak the language. I mean, it was like what an incredible thing to happen. So Yeah, as I say, we just don't understand a lot of this. It's phenomenal,
Yeah,
phenomenal.
it is, but it's also frustrating that we kind of sit that maybe we'll like actually never know, which also kind of frightens me because I would love to experience like what's out in other galaxies and planets, and just the fact that knowing that that's out there, but we'll never be able to get to see it is really like upsetting. You know, it's I would love to experience like other
Uh-huh.
races or all kinds of
Well,
crazy planets and like other civilizations we get to see.
well, I think there's a way to do that. I mean, people talk about astral. You take your astral body and
Projection.
uh, move among the stars with it. There's people have, I think, written. I know they've written books about it and how to do it, even to move move out of your body and uh, things of that nature, and just experience things that you can't do with your solid body. But that this energy, when we die, doesn't die. It just
Right.
goes out there and continues on. Just continues on.
Right. Yeah. Looking forward to it. It's speaking of out of body experiences as well. That was our last discussion with Preston Dennett as well. He wrote a good book about that. He's actually body several times, so hopefully
Yeah.
he gets to get, one day. And I was forward to kind of learning a little bit of how to do it, but it kind of freaks me out. So maybe one day
Sure.
actually get down to it.
Well, I think that's it. I mean, when you're ready, you're ready, and when you're,
Yeah.
and it sounds like you're not quite ready yet. It's like one of the things that we talk about with people that come to us and are looking for a hypnotherapist. I always counsel them on the fact that you need to be sure that you want to do that, because you may find out something you don't want to know. And it's the old, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube once it's out, or it's very difficult to.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. We don't want to do that. Um, yeah, but I guess as we kind of, I don't want to take up too much of your time today. Um, I guess we can kind of, so you do have the book, The Unknown Other and the Proposition of Alien Contact. Now that's obviously available on Amazon for
Right.
anybody that wants to pick up the book. I'll actually have the links down below in the show notes, as well as the link to the website, which is www.opusnetwork.org. And down below as well, just in case anybody who's ever, actually had an experience and they just didn't know who to turn to prior to this. You guys are seeing this now. But I guess what kind of process does that do? They have to kind of go through? Obviously, they have to fill out the information, and they get like calls, and do
Yeah.
they?
Like I say, within 24 hours, we'll contact them.
Okay,
Either with a referral if they're looking for a therapist, um, and also if they're looking to be put into the online support group, uh, we'll send them an invitation to the group, which explains how uh, they need to get into it, and so it's very very straightforward, and it's very quick.
right,
I don't like to sit on anything, and uh, I'm the one that sees most of these things that come in, because I'm always very interested in making sure that we respond in a reasonable amount of time, which for me is 24 hours. I don't like to sit on it any longer than that.
sure. And is it? I guess how red is that kind of net? Do you guys have? I guess like what would they be like? This or things like that,
Yeah,
like around the world, or do they
yeah.
in, or how does
We
that?
we have people in the UK. We have people mostly in the United States, um, and some of these therapists will work via Zoom or Skype, which then makes it possible for people from around the world to get involved. But right now, mainly the United States and Europe, where predominantly. although we've been working recently in Australia and New Zealand, and we have people in the support group from South America. We're trying to network with as many people from all over the world. But if you look at the statistics from MUFON, it's very interesting. The top four are the United States, the UK, mostly the English-speaking places, and then it starts to rapidly diminish as far as a lot of people in Europe, and then some in South America. Although there's a lot of cases in South America, but I think in a lot of instances there's not a way for these people to connect with the internet, even based on where they're located. But it's definitely worldwide. It's definitely worldwide phenomena, and we'll help anybody anywhere as best we can. And a lot of times, the best thing we can do is to have them part of the support group, because then they know they're not alone, that they have people that they can talk to about their situation. So it's proven to be probably the most beneficial thing that we do for people.
Right. Yeah, and it's always tough when people have instances and they don't want to reach out. Obviously they want to be ridiculed, or they want to be. A lot of people just don't believe in these kind of things, and they just start making fun of them. So they just don't say anything, and that's very unfortunate.
Right.
But
exactly. You hit the nail right on the head, Paul.
Yeah, it's especially when it comes like from within your own family. That's even worse.
Oh, absolutely. Your own family thinks you're crazy. It's like that hurts. That really hurts.
Sure. No, yeah. So if anybody out there is actually,
well, it's interesting. I've been married for over 52 years now, and my wife puts up with me doing all of this.
sure.
She believes that we're not alone in the universe, but that's about as far as it goes with her. And my kids, I've got a couple of daughters, and in their 40s, and they don't laugh about it, though. They understand. I'm interested, and so they support me. And then the grandkids, some of them are really into it, and others are just forget it.
Yeah.
They don't want to deal with it. But overall, the family has been very supportive of what I'm doing, and my thought process.
That's definitely an acquired taste. It's I guess my wife's kind of in the same boat. She knows what I do. Besides that, she could care less. It's just like, you're gonna do your thing over there. I'm gonna, so she's gone. But so it's
right.
we're both. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Velez, I really appreciate your time. If anybody is definitely wanting to reach out, please reach out to org. You can get your information sent in. They'll reach out to you. You guys can go ahead and let them know what's going on. If you guys support group as well, so you guys are around like-minded individuals. If you guys had experiences and such, you can go ahead and do that there as well. We will have the link to the website as well as the book in the show notes down below. Go ahead and take a look at that as well. And that website again is OPUS Network. Mr. Velez, I appreciate your time, sir. I really appreciate you hopping out with us.
Paul, thank you so much. I really appreciate you and what you're doing. It's something that's really needed, because I think eventually we'll reach critical mass, and everybody will wake up one morning and say, yes, we're not alone, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to the day. Thanks again. For everybody else, if you guys are catching us on YouTube, like I mentioned before, and you aren't already a subscriber, a lot of you guys aren't, you catch this show, just please consider hitting that subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. You can go ahead and turn on that bell icon so you guys don't miss an episode in the future. Thumbs up as well if you guys enjoy the work that we do here. Maybe share a link to the show. Maybe share a link to, with a friend, family member, if you want to share it at work. Maybe not at work, because a lot of people kind of get a little fussy about that. It's all right. You know, we were just speaking about 9/11 and all these years that it's happened. 9/11 is still one of those hotly contested topics. An episode with James Corbett talking about 9/11, which got taken off YouTube. Like they cited all kinds of crazy instances why and things like that, which were outrageous. But if you guys follow us on Rumble, you can catch that episode on Rumble. That's still up there. It's just not up on YouTube. You can, if you guys are on the run, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple, iHeartRadio, at Truth Defender Podcast. And as always, if you guys want to send us an email to myself or a guest, you guys want to share something with them as well, you want to come through, email at thetruthDefender1776 at gmail.com. I really appreciate everybody stopping in for another episode. We're going to be kind of hot and fast here. We actually have an episode coming up on the 20th, and we have Pastor Bill Bean is coming back on as well. Effect, and then we will actually have Bishop Larry Gators back on. He was supposed to be on the 18th, but he had to push back, so we'll be back with him of this month. So stay tuned for that as well. Everybody, stay safe out there. Best, and most of all, stay frosty.
Perfect.